Sarajevo, June 28, 1914. A seemingly ordinary Sunday morning, yet history held its breath. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, arrived with his wife, Sophie, in the Bosnian capital. This visit, intended to be a gesture of imperial goodwill, instead became the precise moment a fragile peace fractured. The city buzzed, spectators lining the streets, unaware they were witnessing the opening act of an unimaginable tragedy. A single bullet. What ripple could it create? The morning had already seen one failed assassination attempt. A bomb, thrown at the Archduke's motorcade, bounced off his car and injured bystanders. Miraculously, Franz Ferdinand was unscathed. But instead of abandoning the tour, a fateful decision was made. The procession would continue, after a brief pause, to the town hall. A route change was ordered, a misunderstanding somewhere along the chain of command. A small error. A minor deviation. Could these moments truly alter destinies? Among the crowd stood Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb nationalist. A member of the Black Hand, a secret society advocating for a greater Serbia, Princip believed Ferdinand represented an oppressive regime. Disheartened by the morning's failure, he found himself, by sheer chance, outside Schiller's delicatessen. The Archduke's driver, having taken a wrong turn, stopped the car, ironically, directly in front of him. A twist of fate. Or something more sinister? With sudden, terrible clarity, Princip seized his opportunity. Drawing his pistol, he fired 2 shots. One struck Sophie in the abdomen, severing an artery. The other hit Franz Ferdinand in the neck, piercing his jugular. Their driver sped off, but it was too late. Within minutes, both Archduke and Duchess were dead. 2 lives extinguished. But what else perished in that moment? Was it merely the end of a royal line, or something far grander, more terrifying? News of the assassination reverberated across Europe. Initial reactions were shock and outrage, but not panic. Political assassinations, while tragic, were not unheard of. Many saw it as an isolated incident, a local disturbance in the tumultuous Balkans. Yet, beneath the surface of apparent calm, powerful forces were stirring. A complex web of alliances, built over decades, lay dormant. Waiting. For what trigger? For what signal? For years, Europe had been a powder keg. On one side, the Triple Entente, France, Russia, and Great Britain. On the other, the Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. These agreements, meant to deter aggression, paradoxically ensured that a conflict involving any 2 nations could rapidly draw in all. A defensive pact? Or a shared suicide pact? Was anyone truly safe from the implications of such intricate bonds? For Austria-Hungary, the assassination was an unbearable affront. Not just a murder, but an attack on the empire's honor, instigated, they believed, by neighboring Serbia. Vienna saw an opportunity to crush Serbian nationalism once and for all. But such an aggressive move against a sovereign nation carried immense risks. Did the Austro-Hungarian leadership truly grasp the forces they were about to unleash? Or were they blinded by grief and rage? Before acting, Austria-Hungary sought assurances. They turned to their powerful ally, Germany. On July 5, Kaiser Wilhelm II and his Chancellor delivered what became known as the blank check. Germany pledged unconditional support, urging Vienna to act swiftly and decisively against Serbia. A fateful endorsement. Did this check come with unspoken terms? Or was it simply a green light to plunge a continent into darkness? With German backing, Austria-Hungary felt emboldened. But a swift, decisive action required careful planning. Days turned into weeks. Precious time passed. The initial shock began to fade, replaced by a tense anticipation across Europe. Diplomats scrambled, sending telegrams, holding hushed meetings. The clock was ticking. But towards what? Towards peace, or towards an inevitable, cataclysmic confrontation? On July 23, Austria-Hungary delivered an ultimatum to Serbia. Its demands were extraordinary: suppress anti-Austrian propaganda, dismiss officials hostile to Austria-Hungary, and allow Austro-Hungarian officials to participate in the investigation of the assassination within Serbia. A 48-hour deadline. It was designed to be rejected, to provide a pretext for war. Could any sovereign nation accept such terms? Was there any hope for diplomatic resolution left? Serbia, small and vulnerable, found itself caught between a rock and a hard place. Accepting the ultimatum in full would mean a humiliating loss of sovereignty. Rejecting it risked war with a far superior power. They appealed to Russia, their Slavic protector, for support. The world watched. Could Serbia navigate this impossible choice? Or would their answer, whatever it may be, simply accelerate the countdown? On July 25, just before the deadline, Serbia delivered its reply. They accepted most of the demands, conceding significantly, but they rejected the provision allowing Austro-Hungarian officials to operate within Serbia, citing their constitution. A near full acceptance. Was it enough? Or was the die already cast, regardless of Serbia's earnest attempts at peace? The world held its breath. What would Vienna decide? Austria-Hungary deemed Serbia's response unsatisfactory. On July 28, exactly 1 month after the assassination, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Artillery barrages began along the Serbian border. The first shots of what would become the deadliest conflict in human history. A localized war. Or so it seemed. But how many threads connected this one flashpoint to the vast, interwoven fabric of Europe? Russia, as Serbia's protector and a fellow Slavic nation, could not stand idly by. Tsar Nicholas II ordered a partial mobilization of his army, aimed specifically at Austria-Hungary. This was a clear signal of intent, a warning. But was it perceived as such? Or as an act of aggression in itself? The delicate balance of power was shifting. Would this partial step be enough, or would it simply invite a larger, more dangerous response? Germany saw Russia's partial mobilization as a direct threat. Its military strategy, the Schlieffen Plan, relied on swift, full mobilization and a rapid strike through Belgium into France to avoid a two-front war. Russia's partial move complicated everything. Berlin demanded Russia halt its mobilization. A precarious moment. Was it a genuine attempt to de-escalate, or simply a strategic move to gain an advantage? On July 30, sensing the impending catastrophe, Russia upgraded its partial mobilization to a full mobilization. All along its vast border, millions of men began to prepare for war. This was not merely against Austria-Hungary, but against Germany too. The point of no return. Or so it seemed. Once set in motion, could such an immense military machine ever be stopped? The map of Europe was about to bleed red. For Germany, Russia's full mobilization was an act of war. They issued a final ultimatum, demanding Russia cease preparations within 12 hours. The demand went unmet. On August 1, Germany declared war on Russia. The first major power-on-power declaration. A fateful Saturday. The chain reaction was now undeniable. Each move, each declaration, tightening the noose around Europe. Could anyone still pull back from the brink? Germany's strategy against a two-front war, the Schlieffen Plan, dictated an immediate attack on France if war with Russia was certain. France, allied with Russia, began its own mobilization. Germany issued an ultimatum to France, demanding it remain neutral. France refused. The logic of alliances, once a deterrent, was now a destructive force. France was now irrevocably bound to Russia's fate. And its own. On August 2, Germany invaded Luxembourg and issued an ultimatum to Belgium, demanding free passage for its troops to outflank the French defenses. Belgium, a neutral nation, refused. Germany invaded. The act violated Belgium's neutrality, guaranteed by an 1839 treaty. A breach of international law. A small country, caught between giants. Would anyone stand up for its sovereignty? On August 3, Germany officially declared war on France. The Western Front, a line of battle that would bleed Europe for 4 years, was now open. German forces poured into Belgium, meeting unexpected, fierce resistance. Every border, every alliance, every historic grievance was now activated. The scale of the unfolding disaster was becoming clearer. But even now, did they truly grasp the depth of the abyss? Great Britain, for weeks, had largely played the role of mediator, hoping to avert a general European war. But the invasion of neutral Belgium changed everything. Britain had guaranteed Belgium's neutrality. To stand aside would be a betrayal of its word and a strategic disaster, allowing Germany to dominate the continent. The decision hung heavy. Could a nation remain neutral when the continent was ablaze? At 11 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time on August 4, when Germany refused to withdraw from Belgium, Great Britain declared war on Germany. The last major European power had entered the fray. The full horror of the alliance system, the blank check, the ultimatums, and the mobilizations, had delivered its terrible conclusion. The entire continent was now engulfed. From a single shot, an entire world was dragged into an unprecedented conflict. In just over a month, a localized assassination had detonated a continent-wide war. The dominoes had fallen with terrifying precision. Austria-Hungary against Serbia, Russia against Austria-Hungary and Germany, Germany against Russia and France, and finally, Britain against Germany. The great powers, bound by treaties and rivalries, had stumbled into a conflict none truly wanted, yet none could stop. The scale of it was unfathomable. But the devastation wouldn't remain confined to Europe. Empires stretched across the globe. Britain, France, Germany, their colonies and dominions were automatically drawn into the conflict. Soldiers from Canada, Australia, India, and Africa would soon fight on European soil. The war truly became a world war, impacting every corner of the planet. What began as a local feud had metastasized into something far beyond anyone's control. Over the next 4 years, more nations would enter the brutal fray. The Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria joined the Central Powers. Italy, initially part of the Triple Alliance, switched sides and joined the Entente. The United States, after years of neutrality, would eventually be drawn in. The alliances shifted, reformed, and expanded, each new combatant adding more fuel to the fire. The initial simplicity of asides had evaporated. The world witnessed unprecedented levels of destruction. Trench warfare, poison gas, machine guns, and artillery decimated armies. Old strategies clashed with new technologies, leading to unimaginable casualties. Millions of young men were sent to their deaths in muddy, disease-ridden trenches for mere yards of territory. A new kind of war. A terrifying new standard of human suffering. The question lingered, for what? Beyond the battlefields, civilian populations suffered immensely. Blockades led to food shortages, disease spread unchecked, and aerial bombing raids, though primitive, brought the war home. Families were torn apart, economies crippled, and entire generations scarred. The war was not just fought by soldiers, it consumed societies. The human cost extended far beyond those who wore uniforms. Who could even begin to count the toll? When the guns finally fell silent on November 11, 1918, the world was left to survey the ruins. The precise number is difficult to grasp, but historians estimate that World War I claimed the lives of approximately 20 million people. Soldiers and civilians. Combatants and innocents. A staggering number. All, in a horrific chain reaction, initiated by a single, desperate act in a Balkan city. What does such a number truly mean? 20 million deaths. A number that eclipses entire populations. It means 20 million families forever broken, 20 million futures unlived, 20 million stories abruptly ended. This wasn't merely a statistic, it was an amputation of humanity, a void left in the tapestry of generations. What value can we assign to such a loss? What lessons can we possibly glean from such an immense sacrifice? The war brought down empires. The Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, Russian, and German empires all collapsed, giving way to new nations and new geopolitical landscapes. The map of Europe was redrawn, borders shifting, old rivalries festering, and new ones emerging. This was not the end of conflict, but merely the shifting of its forms. Did anyone truly win when the cost was so high? The Treaty of Versailles, meant to bring lasting peace, instead sowed the seeds of future conflict. Germany, burdened by immense reparations and national humiliation, harbored resentment. The unresolved issues, the new borders, the shifting powers, all laid the groundwork for another, even more devastating war just 2 decades later. Did the world truly learn from its mistakes? Or were the seeds of another cataclysm simply waiting to sprout? This entire catastrophe, this global bloodbath, did not arise from some inevitable, cosmic force. It was born of human decisions, human ambitions, human fears, and human failures. The Archduke's assassination was the spark, yes. But the powder keg was built by decades of mistrust, nationalist fervor, and a rigid adherence to military plans over diplomatic flexibility. Could a different choice, at any point, have averted it all? What if Franz Ferdinand had cancelled his visit after the bomb attempt? What if Germany had not offered the blank check? What if Russia had not fully mobilized? What if Britain had ignored Belgium's neutrality? Each juncture presented a different path, a different future. The road to 20 million deaths was not a single, predetermined track, but a series of interconnected choices, each closing off another possibility. The story of 1914 is a chilling reminder of how easily a localized crisis can spiral into global devastation. How quickly rhetoric can become reality, and how the intricate dance of international relations can turn deadly. The mechanisms that once sought to maintain peace, the alliances, ultimately became the very instruments of destruction. What lessons do we carry forward from this history? What shadows does Sarajevo still cast upon our world? So, a single assassination. 2 shots fired. And in their terrifying echo, a continent, then a world, was consumed by war. 20 million lives extinguished. The chain reaction, once set in motion, proved unstoppable. But the ultimate question remains, hauntingly present, was it truly inevitable? Or could humanity, at any point, have chosen a different fate?